Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Tea Time on Wednesday this week. I am drinking soup today instead of tea. It's a beautiful November day here on San Juan Island. And I'm not sure how many people will see this live, and I think a bunch of you will probably see it on the replay. Hello, Margaret, you're here. Welcome to Tea Time. So today, I wanted to talk about aversives. So this is something that's come up a lot in terms of thinking about positive reinforcement training and how much is it possible to train without aversives, meaning how much can we train by encouraging the things we like instead of discouraging the things we don't like? And I think the problem with this, while it's a really good theory, is that it's all a spectrum, and you have to have contrast from one side of the spectrum to the other side of the spectrum in order for training to occur. So that means that if you don't have a good thing countered by a worse thing, the full effect of the good thing isn't felt, and vice versa. So the way I train with no tools at all, we have to really emphasize the fact that horses enjoy harmony with people, and that's our good thing. But it means that when we deny them harmony, when we're moving around them more instead of being in harmony with them, that does end up being an aversive. It does end up, because it's a contrast. And you can't get away from contrast in training. If you have no contrast, you have no behavior shaping. So the way that I think about it is I just really emphasize how good harmony is. And then when I take harmony away, the goal is to get back to harmony as quickly as possible. So we're emphasizing the good part of it. But the fact is, there's still some aversive feeling when you have the contrast. Now, let's say if somehow you linked being active around the horse to good things, well then, by contrast, harmony either has to be better than that or worse than that. If harmony is exactly the same, if harmony has linked exactly the same good feelings as moving around the horse, you have no way to shape their behavior. You have to 100% accept whatever the horse gives you. And at that point, it's all freedom, no training. So we have to think, in our relationship, how much training is valid and how much freedom do we want to emphasize? So without a doubt, there is contrast in life. I think that if we don't have contrast, we're not alive. And anytime you have one thing that is better than another thing, the thing that feels worse is going to be your aversive. It's the thing you want to avoid. It's the thing that's going to shape your behavior. Getting the thing you want is also going to shape your behavior, but it is the contrast between the two things. Now, I have a story that goes along with this, because I like to tell stories in tea time. So a little while ago, the veterinarian came to sign my Mustang papers for Ari, my stallion, so that he's officially mine. Yay, that's a wonderful thing. This happened a little while back, but when she was done with her check, she patted him on the neck, and that pat on his neck made him jump like 2 feet in the air, and he was so shocked. He thought she was hitting him, because I've never patted him. I stroke a horse, I don't pet them. And I thought, oh, I think I need to prepare him for the fact that that's a thing that's going to happen sometimes. People are going to pat him. They don't mean to hit him. It's not a bad thing, but he needs to become desensitized to it. So here's the thing. If you're going to desensitize something, that the horse hates. How do you do that in a way that makes it reasonable? So you got to remember, in freedom-based training, the horse can walk away from me at any time. They don't have to stay with me. There's no food rewards they get for staying with me. So if I do something like pat Ari on the neck too many times, he's just not going to be there. He's just going to leave. So how do I set him up so that somebody randomly going pat, pat, pat on his neck is desensitized enough that it helps him think more without making him overreact and feel like he's being punished? So this week, it's been windy, it's been rainy, the weather's been terrible, and he started shaking his head when we're taking a walk. Just, that big ring of the neck. And that shake of the head is not something, I don't like it particularly. He's not doing anything bad. But it would be difficult to ride. And, he's just feeling a little bit of stress from the weather and the chaos of the rain and the wind. So I thought this would be a perfect time to desensitize him to being patted. Now, I'm not going to start with the big pat because that's too much. I'm going to start with like a drumming of the fingers. Drumming of the fingers is already like a little bit percussion, and it's a little shocking to him. So when he wrings his neck from the rain and the wind, I drum my fingers a little bit, or maybe even pat them a little bit on his neck. And what that does is it shocks him a little bit, and it settles him into a more steady, frozen behavior. So if I think of the big head toss as kind of a fight, like he's fighting against the environmental conditions. But then the freeze is an improvement on fight. So what I've done is I've used an aversive to cause a better feeling. Now, I don't want him to stay in freeze. I want him to go from freeze to think and all the better things. But what I've found is that when he starts to get a little bit fighty and irritated about the weather, if I can add a pat pat on his neck, it takes him from fight to freeze. Now, when he goes to freeze, then he has a moment to think, and then when he starts to think, he feels better. So what we've ended up doing is we're using an aversive, something he doesn't like, to cause him to go from a feeling that doesn't work very well for the relationship to a feeling that works better in the relationship to a feeling that's enjoyable in the relationship. It's all in the timing. Now, part of me doesn't want him to swing his neck at all. I don't want him to ever have to feel that fight feeling and that discomfort from the weather. But another part of me is now kind of excited that I have this opportunity to desensitize the patting. So yesterday, when we were doing a lot of walking, actually it was the day before yesterday, when it was still rainy, I found that I had quite a few opportunities. And by the end, he wasn't freezing when I patted him. He was flicking an ear back to me. His muscles weren't tightening up as much. The pat, instead of being so aversive, was now starting to cause thinking instead of causing freeze. So through repetition, with good timing, that pat, pat, pat that he disliked so much in the beginning was starting to be a trigger for a better feeling. So now I've just caused an aversive to be a trigger for a positive. And that was kind of fun for me. So, it's sometimes hard to figure out the feel and the timing for everything. But there are going to be some things that we want the horses to get used to. That's just life around humans. Humans do stupid things, and we want the horse to go, oh, isn't that interesting? Instead of, oh my God, that's upsetting. And with taking it a little bit at a time, using the right feel and timing, we can actually use some of those desensitization things to discourage one behavior as an aversive while triggering a different behavior, which is a better feeling. So figuring out puzzles like that is kind of fun. And I think it kind of helps the relationship grow and develop. Zena says, interesting. Luke does it too. If any thing in the world happens too soon, too much in this moment. So yeah, that feeling of frustration where they wring their head around. Horses do it sometimes. I don't think it feels good to them. I think that sometimes they do it in play, but if it's in a playful state, they're doing it because somebody else is doing it too. So that's the difference between play and fight. Play is something you do to bring you and your friends closer together. It's fun. You mimic, you mirror, you bounce off of each other in a way that's good. Fight is something that your friends don't like. And so if you have a horse that's showing frustration behaviors in the relationship, you might think about what's a small piece of an aversive that I want them to get used to in the long run that's going to make their life better. So for me, if my veterinarian comes at the end of her visit, she goes pat, pat, pat on Ari's neck, I want him to go, that's kind of interesting, a little weird, but it's okay. And so I'm going to take these opportunities. I can both train him that I don't love the big toss of the head, and that patting is okay. Might even cause interest or curiosity or an improvement of feeling. So those are my thoughts for today. I hope that's helpful for you guys. With freedom-based training, I try and use all the good theory from all the different kinds of training and just shape it in a way that's going to work if I have no tools. If the horse is free to walk away from me, they don't have any reason to stay, I don't have them trapped between me and a fence, I'm going to take all the good ideas that I can from every training method out there and shape it in a way that works for the horse. Thank you, Annie. I'm glad you think that's clever. All right, you guys, I hope that's good food for thought, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. Let me know if you have questions or ideas you'd like to hear me talk about. I try and pull a personal story in to answer your questions and ideas, so I gather a list, but please keep them coming. I like the good ideas. Have a wonderful day, you guys.